You're tuned to Saturday Night Blues on CBC Radio 1 and 2. I'm Holger Petersen. And tonight we have a very special guest performing live for us, Peter Case.
She was standing on the corner of Wonderland and Wall, waiting for the light to change and wondering where to go. Take the bottles to the grocery, sell the records back to the shop, step out on the sidewalk and make some traffic stop. Cause the phones are disconnected and the landlord's at the door. The tow trucks at the curbside here to repossess the Ford. And there's a house rent party tonight. Everybody shake. Oh, we're gonna blow the roof sky high. We're gonna catch a break. Cause when they put you on the street, you can sit and watch the dawn. But there's always something you can do when your last gold dollar's gone. He's got his double-breasted jacket and some cherry wingtip shoes, big old hat with a feather hat, a pocket flask of booze. But he can't afford the treatments, and there ain't no other cure. Sad to say, without more pay, he won't get well no more. Then the night falls up on Broadway, and the neon starts to shine, and the dancers in the love act getting ready for the grind. And there's a house rent party tonight. Everybody shake. Oh, we're gonna blow the roof sky high. We're gonna catch a break. And I know I'm gonna make it, don't care what I have to do. And I know you do the same for me as I would do for you. And there's a house rent party tonight. So I bought a lucky ticket and I pinned it to the shelf. I put one away for you, baby, then I kept one for myself. I'm gonna take my winnings, I'm gonna disappear. I'm gonna start a brand new band, we'll play anywhere but here. Cause there's nothing coming in, and sugar, nothing's going out. There's nothing left to talk about if all we do is shout. And there's a house rent party tonight. Everybody shake. We're gonna blow the roof sky high. We're gonna catch a break. And I know we're gonna make it, don't care what I have to do. And I know you do the same for me as I would do for you. And there's a house rent party tonight. Everybody shake. Wow, oh, we're gonna blow the roof sky high. Oh, we're gonna catch a break. When they put you on the street, you can sit and watch the dawn. But there's always something you can do when your last gold dollar's gone. And there's a house rent party tonight.
Peter Case with House Rent Party. Peter, thank you very much for being our guest tonight on Saturday Night Blues to play some live music for us.
Yeah, man, good to be here.
Peter, I know you have so many different musical interests, and you're really acknowledged as an authority on different kinds of music. And I appreciate the fact that tonight we're going to talk about blues, which is only,
Right.
part of what you do, and I certainly want to acknowledge that. But as far as the blues interest that you've had over the years, when did that really start for you?
Well, when I was a kid, my sisters were, I was like the littlest kid in the family, and my sisters were teenagers when I was an infant and toddler and stuff. It was 50s, 57, 58, and rock and roll was king back then. And they were really into this is Elvis before he went in the army and came out and started doing, pop, but he was playing rock and roll. And they had Chuck Berry records, they had Link Ray, but they also had like a lot of Fats Domino and things like that. On 78, my sister played piano and played like a sort of Fats Domino, Fats Waller kind of hybrid style for a teenage girl. That was pretty cool in the 50s. There was a lot of that going on. Now, all that music from the 50s is really just blues. And so it gave me a feel for it. And then the Rolling Stones and the and Bob Dylan, you know, I got into that as a little kid, you know, maybe when I was like 10 or 11, I started listening to that stuff. And when I was smart enough to, you know, when I got old enough to like sort of pull the threads to what was going on there, and you go, oh well, Big Joe Williams, you know, on the first Bob Dylan record, you know, Book of White and all this kind of stuff. And I was curious. I loved that first Bob Dylan record so much that I just found out about all the people on it. And the same with the Rolling Stones. I was the first guy in my town. I'm like from a little town outside of Buffalo, and I ordered the best of Muddy Waters on chess, you know.
Yeah.
And it finally showed up at this little record store, you know, and it looked like it had come by, you know, camel or something, you know. It was like all kind of bent and like, you know, it had gone to, you know, it seemed like it came from really far away, and I just like took it home, and it was just like it just blew me away, you know. I just want to make love to you and those kind of things. And just the sound of it and the whole feel of it, I just loved it. Now, Buffalo, you know, it really is one of the big blues cities, you know. Big Joe Williams actually lived in Buffalo. Son House lived over in Rochester, which is only, you know, Robert Johnson came up and played in Buffalo, and they all came up and played there. It was on the blues circuit. So as a teenager, I mean, not when I was there, but when it was still on the blues circuit when I was a kid. So I used to go over to the East Side when I was a teenager, and like we'd be like the only kids sort of hanging around at this club called the Governor's Inn, and you'd hear blues over there. And so I started really getting involved with that. I could go on and on. I got in a band called the Skull Street Train. It was just called Skull Street Train. It was a blues band. I was like the youngest guy in it. I was playing piano in bands back then, playing rock and like blues piano. And all the guys were older, and I learned a lot in that band. And, you know, so there was a whole scene over there, really. You know, it's kind of where like Toronto and Buffalo was sort of the hub, and Hamilton, too, you know, was where a lot of blues came out of those three towns. Yep. And the band, actually, I met Garth Hudson and worked with him a while back, and I told him I was from Buffalo, and we ended up talking about a guy named Stan Zalest.
Right, I remember him.
And I used to go see him play when I was a kid, and Ernie Corella and Stan Zalest. And it turned out that my guitar teacher was this guy, Pete Haskell, was like in the original Stan and the Raven. He wasn't talking about it because he wanted to play jazz. He's like, you know. Now, Peter, when you get into these 13 flat, 5 flat, 9 harmonies, you know, you really can't go back to... you know, Creedence Clearwater, you know. And so he wasn't really admitting, you know, he'd wear these shades, you know, and like look over the top of the shades, like, you know, at the important chord, you know, like he'd have like a hair slicked back. It was like 1967, and he'd be like, you know. You know, it was always like that, you know, for the heavy chords, you know. And it was like an argument or something that he was winning with the chords.
I remember talking to King Biscuit Boy quite a few times about him going from Hamilton to Buffalo to buy records. And he said there were a lot of Canadian people that did that.
That's
and go to, because that's where the cool record stores were, right?
There were great record stores on the East Side. There was like just incredible stores over there. And so you could get like all kinds of blues records and stuff. And then there was incredible clubs, you know, a great blues scene over there. The whole organ jazz thing came from Buffalo. Because a guy bought an organ over on the East Side and stuck it in the club, bought a Hammond, and guys who played organ, they'd play this club, you know, because that was like, you didn't have to you didn't have to own an organ, you just go play at this joint. And so there was a whole sort of history of it there, and a lot of people from Hamilton were coming down. It was all tied together, and you know, Ronnie Hawkins up in Toronto, and a lot of the guys that played in Buffalo would go up and play with Ronnie, and I was part of kind of a kid peripheral on that scene, you know, hanging out and getting to sit in once in a while, and then playing with this other band. And I learned a lot about music from all them guys. But I was also playing acoustic and playing solo too, you know. There wasn't quite so much of that around there, so I sort of had to get out of there to pick up more on that.
Well, you're playing 12-string acoustic tonight, and anybody that's spent time loving the blues kind of relates that to Leadbelly in some way. And is that a connection for you? Yeah,
totally. I had a rock and roll band, and we signed with a subsidiary of Elektra Records in the early 80s. And one of the things that swung me towards wanting to do the deal with these particular people was that they go, oh, you can pick anything you want out of this catalog. And they had like the Leadbelly, you know, box set, you know. This is back in the 80s, you know.
Was that Elektra?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the Plimsolls. The
Yeah,
band.
yeah. And so I got the Lead Belly box set, which I immediately retired into my room and, you know, just listened to endlessly. I'll play a song off the Lead Belly box set here. In the workhouse, 6 long months in jail. 30 days in the workhouse, 6 long months in jail. I'm in trouble, I want to go my band. Now when a man gets in trouble, everybody turns him down. When a man gets in trouble, everybody turns him down. Trouble now, prison bound. Well, if I'd listened to my baby, well, I wouldn't be here today. If I'd listened to my baby, I wouldn't be here today. Oh, down, 6 long months to stay. All right. Please, Mr. Jailer, lock the door for me. I said, please, Mr. Jailer, lock the door for me. Well, I'm in trouble, such misery. Well, I'm a hard-working prisoner and I'm here without a trial. Well, I'm a hard-working prisoner and I'm here without a trial. Well, my heart is breaking to be down such a long, long while. One more time. Days in the workhouse, 6 long months in jail. Got 30 days in the workhouse and 6 long months in jail. Well, I'm in trouble now, no one will go my bail.
Wonderful. Peter Case tonight on Saturday Night Blues, playing some live acoustic blues for us. 12-string guitar there, a little influence from Lead Belly, who spent a lot of time in jail.
Oh, God. Poor Lead Belly, man. It's a tough road to go, man, all those guys in jail. You know, we were just talking before the show about Honey Boy Edwards, you know, and
Yeah.
saw him play a bunch out in L.A. and stuff, and you'd met him and interviewed him, and one of the things he reveals, like in his book, actually, I just read it in there, but he was talking about how if you wanted to play blues and you didn't have a job, you know, like, you know, it really is that thing, like Chuck Berry said, like, you know, arrested on charges of unemployment, you know. You could, if you were, you know, black and standing around on the street, you know, you just get picked up and pressed into a work gang. So basically, it was like legal slavery still going on, you know, all through the 20s and 30s in the United States.
You came from Buffalo to Los Angeles and to California. Was there kind of an acoustic blues scene that you discovered when you arrived in California?
Yeah, there was. You know, I came out and I got to San Francisco is where I landed. You can't go straight from Buffalo to L.A. It's just impossible, you know. And so I went from Buffalo to San Francisco. It's impossible because people from Buffalo, you just go crazy when you see L.A. when the first time you can't stand it. And so I went to, but San Francisco was very nice. It was really cool. It was a beautiful place, and there was just a lot of great music there at the time. J.C. Burris was there, and Sonny Terry would be there, and you know, of course, John Lee Hooker. And you would see all of them play, but also a lot of people were just traveling through, and you'd see them play. You know, all sorts of incredible people. But I was there for about 15 minutes playing on the street. And I met this guy named Mike Wilhelm, and Mike became sort of my mentor musically. He was in a rock. I was a kid. I came out there to get around all that music, and he was the guy that started the first psychedelic band in San Francisco. They're called the Charlatans, with Dan Hicks. And so they were broken up, but he was out playing around town, and he was looking for some people, and he asked me if I wanted to get in his band. Well, I was too young to play in a band in California, not in Buffalo, but in California. You had to be 21. So I started playing folk clubs with him. And so he started teaching me all the, the finger picking stuff, which I'd been trying to pick up, but I hadn't really, but he got me going on all that. Mississippi John Hurt, learned how to play it, Robert Johnson, and especially Gary Davis and Blind Blake, and turned me on to all that stuff, as well as a lot of rock and roll. He was sort of like, my orientation now is that, it's all part of one, all part of a spectrum of music, And Mike was like that too. He taught me about Eddie Cochran, which I didn't know about too, And he's digging the Rolling Stones, but he's also digging Eddie Cochran and gospel players, and it was like a whole kind of world of music. There was another great musician out there that I don't know people if you know him, Holger, Tom Hobson. Have you ever heard of him? He played with Jorma Kaukonen at one point, and Tom was sort of a mentor for a lot of guys then, and he was just playing the club scenes. He was a Southern man that had come out to California, and I think, guys like Garcia, had mentioned him, like the greatest guitar player in town kind of thing, But he was just playing the clubs, so I used to play with him a bit, and he was a great finger picker and, American music kind of, genius.
I love your contribution to the Mississippi John Hurt tribute recording. You and Dave Alvin did one of his tunes.
Oh, yeah.
You've also incorporated some Lightnin' Hopkins into your material over the years.
Yeah. I mean, I produced that John Hurt thing. That was kind of an idea I came up with Vanguard Records, because I had those things. So I produced that record, got nominated for a Grammy for it, actually. And we had everybody. They were all people I knew that, played John Hurt's music from, Guy Clark to... I don't know if Guy Clark's on there. I wanted to get him on there. Is he on there? Maybe not. I know he plays it, though, because I sat around with him and played it, but it's like Lucinda and Lucinda Williams and Steve Earle and late Bill Morrissey, my friend, and all these people. So, and then Lightnin' Hopkins. I saw him play when I was a teenager. I hitchhiked from Buffalo in a blizzard quite a bit of the way, and somehow I ended up in Boston, where I was walking down the street, and it was a really heavy trip for me because it was the first time I got stranded in Albany. So I went into the library there to get out of the snow, And they had like a record rack, and it was the first time I ever heard Skip James. It was the first time I ever heard Ramblin' Jack, and it was the first time I ever heard what was that other record? Oh, Cisco Houston.
Oh yeah,
Bad Man, the Bad Man Blunder, Bad Man Ballad, And they had Hard Time Killing Floor Blues. So I was just like hitchhiking, stranded, and I heard all these things for the first time. It really blew me away. And then it cleared up a little bit or something, and I ended up in. There's a whole story about this. I wrote about it somewhere, up somewhere. But I got up there, and I'm walking down the street, and I go in and hear Lightnin' Hopkins play. It was like my last $3 or something. And I go in, and he's in there. It was fantastic, So that was like right around 71, I guess, So he was a big influence because we had his records, too.
Yeah. Well, Peter, you've done 2 books. You've written 2 books. You've produced for other people. You put together that Mississippi John Hurt compilation, and you've done so many recordings. I'm just curious. I think, was it the Nerves, your first band?
That was my first band on the West Coast. It was the first serious band. I had a couple bands back east, but
and highly collectible for vinyl collectors. The Plimsolls was one of your bands.
The Nerves is collectible. The funny thing about it, it's like worth $100 a record now. It's like this EP, and maybe even more than that. But I remember the day we got them back from we did it ourselves, and we had like just exactly enough money. And we got like a couple thousand records, and this truck pulled up one day in San Francisco, and this guy, where do you want the records? I'll put them in the basement, of this building. We put them in there, and like, how are we going to get rid of these records? There's like a huge pile of them, and we'll take them down to the record store. So the guy at the record store, I'll take 5 on consignment. And so that's how it started.
Sure. Yeah. And of the many solo recordings that you've done, how many are there now?
You know, I don't know, but
Yeah.
maybe 12, maybe,
Yeah?
or something like
Okay.
that, maybe.
Any personal favorites that you'd recommend people seek out?
Every few years, it seems like I come up with one that I really you feel like you got kind of nailed it. You know, blue guitar early at the Geffen record that I did with David Hidalgo and Roy Cooter's on that one, and then my favorite might be this one I did for Vanguard in the '90s called "Full Service No Waiting." It was a weird record. We recorded it in like this guy's kind of like just like in this weird room, you know. And this kid was playing drums on a suitcase, and a bunch of people played on it, and it came out really nice. It was a really fun record to do in the songs. And every once in a while, like the sound of it's slightly lo-fi, but it sounds kind of neat. And I really like that one. And then I like this one. I finally got to cut a record completely solo, except Richard Thompson's on it.
Right.
And but outside of that, it's pretty solo. And that's called "Let Us Now Praise Sleepy John," and it's just me playing songs solo. You know, I like records like that. I've always liked records like that, and hope to make some more maybe.
Peter Case, thank you very much for being
Thanks
with
for
us
having me in,
tonight
man.
on Saturday Night Blues. And would you do one more song for us, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. Here's a song I recorded on an album I did called "Peter Case Sings Like Hell." Feel like a broke down edge, mama, I ain't got a driving wheel. Feel like a broke down edge, mama, I got no driving wheel. Have you ever been down and lonesome, you know how I feel. Well, I've been shooting craps and gambling, mama, I done got rolled. Well, I've been shooting craps and gambling, mama, and I done got rolled. Well, I pawned my pistol and my suit got sold. You know what I'm saying? Well, I went down to my praying ground, I fell down on my bended knee. Well, I went down to my praying ground, I fell down on my bended knee. I ain't crying no religion, send my baby home for me. Lord, send me back my baby, I won't trouble you no more. Lord, send me back my baby, I won't trouble you no more. I don't need her in the house if you just lead her to my door. I said, Lordy, Lord, Lordy, Lordy, Lord, Lordy, Lord, Lordy, Lordy, Lord. Feel like a plugged out edge, mama, ain't got no drive at all. Feel like a broke down engine, mama, ain't got no drive at all. I really love my woman, love to see her do the Georgia crawl. Feel like a broke down engine, ain't got no drive at all. Feel like a broke down engine, mama, ain't got no drive at all. I really love you, baby, don't give you from a cherry bar. I said, Lordy, Lord, Lordy, Lordy, Lord, Lordy, Lordy, Lord. Feel like a broke down engine, ain't got no driving wheel. Feel like a broke down engine. Well, if you ever been down and lonesome, you know how I feel.